The Boy from Yesterday. Before we get into Chapter 18, just a reminder to please leave a rating and a review wherever you find your podcasts so that we can spread the word and help others around the world to enjoy the story. Also, if this is your first download, try to play the episodes in sequence from the preface and Chapter 1 on so that you get the full story from the beginning so it all makes more sense for you. And now, Chapter 18. Hiding in plain sight. Laurel had come to terms with her initial panic, believing Tom now, and just accepting as fact that he really was a time traveler. And she realized the implications. Tom had to complete his mission and get medicine back home to his time to save Sam, or it could alter time forever. But then she thought, what if in the course of history Sam had died, and that was the way it was supposed to be? Laurel didn't even tell Tom this. She didn't have the heart to. It would mean that Tom would be abandoning his mission to try to save Sam, a mission that apparently Zeller had supported and maybe somehow knew it was to be. And maybe Tom's presence, even if he didn't go back to the past, would have disturbed the continuity of time even more. It was too overwhelming to figure out now. It was late, it had been a long day, and Laurel suggested that she get Tom situated for the night. For even though Tom wanted to get back to save Sam as soon as possible, he, and certainly she, couldn't just stay up the whole time. Plus there was the issue of not having the magic words to make the ring work again anyway, as Tom had explained to her. Laurel suggested that they at least should try to get some sleep. Laurel explained what was where in the barn apartment as best she could to Tom, not realizing he wouldn't care about a place to charge his phone or anything related to electric appliances. So she lent him some sweats to use for pajamas and assembled a small pile of clothes, part from her that looked more gender-neutral and part from a pile of laundry that had some of Clark's things for Tom to change into in the morning. Tom agreed to all of it, for he was tired too, and even though he was worried about taking time to sleep when he wanted to just focus on getting back to Sam, he realized Laurel was right, that they couldn't face all this without having some rest to fuel their efforts for the next day. They said their goodnights, and Laurel left Tom alone in the quiet barn apartment. Tom looked around, but was afraid to touch anything for fear it might make noise or break. He looked around and slowly tried to accept that he was encountering a very strange fate. Something about the familiarity of the barn, or maybe just the very long day, helped him relax enough on the new bed that he fell asleep with the electric light on and dreamed he was riding Chestnut back in the fields again. Laurel came back in quietly the next morning but found that Tom was already up, out on the couch and reading some magazines from a rack nearby. Laurel explained that Marguerite had gone to the laundromat to check in on things and probably to visit Clark at the hardware store or to the library herself. Marguerite had left a note that she'd be out for a while but back to cook dinner. Laurel had breathed a sigh of relief as she read the note and went back out to the barn-turned-guest house. "Come on, we gotta get you inside. There might not be much time," Laurel said. Tom went willingly, but a little apprehensively, as he wasn't sure what he was going to find inside his house after it had changed over all these years. First of all, the back door that Laurel led him through hadn't existed when Tom lived there. As Tom stepped inside the back door, all the colors, materials, and decor were all different. Tom recognized a few things. The wood molding on the ceiling of the kitchen was the same pattern, and the woodwork around the doorways was the same. But the little kitchen that he had known, and the little table over which he and Uncle Nate had shared countless meals, were gone, replaced by gadgets and things Tom had never seen before. He recognized that Marguerite's fancy Viking stove was a stove, but was so different from the stove that he had made stew on. Tom didn't see an icebox anywhere, just a series of cabinet doors. There was a small thing that looked like a bread box mounted on the wall, too. Tom just stared at all the different things, but he did recognize a few pitchers, forks and spoons, bowls, and things that somehow reassured him that his kitchen was still a kitchen. He looked into what used to be his parlor and recognized the basic shape of the room. He smiled as he recognized the big stone fireplace looking very much like he knew it, which gave him a bit of a relief and also some concern, because it was familiar enough for him to know that he was indeed in the same house, but different enough that the true impact of his travel through time hit him in the pit of his stomach and made his heart skip a beat. Laurel touched his shoulder gently and turned him to look at her. Relax. Look, I know this has got to be hard from you. I'll explain. If you don't know something, just ask. I'm here for you. She smiled and looked him in the eye in a way that made Tom feel reassured that people were still human, even if it still felt like he had traveled to another planet. Tom realized that although this young lady wasn't wearing much clothes and was painted up like a saloon dancer, she was still beautiful and seemed genuinely eager to help him. Now, she said, here comes the hard part. We can't have you looking like this. I mean, you look great, but you look like historic Chesterfield Day. You look like you're in a period costume. We have to make you look like you blend in, just like any other guy around here, until we can buy some time to figure out how to get you home to help save Sam. She paused a second, although I have no idea how to do that. Are there some, I guess, modern clothes I can borrow? Tom asked, which made Laurel think. She looked Tom over up and down, then got a sudden impulse. Come on, I have an idea, and she took him by the hand again and started to lead him upstairs. Tom hesitated, but, miss... Laurel already knew what Tom was thinking. In Tom's Victorian point of view, a woman leading a man upstairs would have been improper. I know you think it's improper, but trust me, it's cool, really, Laurel said. And as she said, she realized she wouldn't know that word. She was right. Tom looked at her blankly, as he was beginning to have a habit of doing that at many of the things, the words she used. I mean, it's proper in our time, really. A lot of things are. You just sort of have to trust me on this. Come on, we gotta hurry. But, Laurel, may I bother you to ask to show me where the necessary is? Tom said a little urgently because he really had to pee and didn't know how that was handled in this time. The what? Laurel said. Oh, you mean necessary to go to... Tom nodded. The Cousin John, you see. We used to have it just outside and to the left. Laurel laughed that what Marguerite sometimes referred to as the John was, in Tom's day, apparently called a Cousin John. That's up here, too. It's all indoors now, kind of connected to the water pump. I'll explain. Tom shrugged and followed her upstairs, where Laurel gave again a wide-eyed Tom a tour of the new upstairs of the house, especially the former bedroom, which had been made into an indoor bathroom. Tom giggled when Laurel explained indoor toilets, which Tom thought was kind of uncouth, but he thought it all seemed very efficient. Laurel started to explain the basic concept of spigots, but Tom gave her a look that seemed to say, "What do you think I am, stupid?" And she caught herself and realized that spigots were already familiar to Tom's time. She gave him some towels and instructions on where the shampoo and bath gel, not bar soap, was. She explained hot and cold running water to Tom's wide-eyed amazement, and then she awkwardly left him alone in the bathroom to shower. To her surprise, she heard Tom comfortable enough to sing in the shower as she waited outside, listening for any signs of trouble inside the bathroom or for the sound of Marguerite coming home earlier than expected. Tom opened the door, wearing his clothes again, but already looking better, except for the considerable scruff on his face. Laurel thought if she was going to introduce Tom later, he should look clean-cut. She gave him a lesson in how to shave with a safety razor, which Tom thought was a funny invention, but clever. She even demonstrated by putting the shaving cream that she used for her legs on her face, which made them both laugh. She taught him how to use modern toothpaste on a toothbrush, how to swish and spit out mouthwash, which Tom thought was wasteful. She tried to show him how to rub a deodorant stick, but this tickled his armpit, and he only got to one arm before he refused to participate in another 21st century silly ritual. Laurel found some of her father's old jeans in a trunk Marguerite kept in the hallway for miscellaneous fabric scraps for her many handicraft projects. They were a little big in the waist, but Laurel had a more unisex-looking belt that just barely fit Tom if he used the last holes in it. She took a shirt from the laundry pile that Clark had left behind and gave it to Tom to try on. It was big on him, but it would work for now. As he finished dressing, using his old boots again on his feet, Laura explained how they would have to go down Main Street and really shop for him, and for Tom to brace himself. He smiled, trusting Laurel to be his gracious hostess to this weird and wonderful time he found himself in. not knowing what to expect next.